They laughed at him in the parking lot. They mocked him in the break room. They fired him in front of everyone. Then he walked back in through the front door and owned the whole building. Nobody in Chicago's business world said the name Harlow Global without lowering their voice a little. 42 floors, offices in 6 cities, thousands of employees, revenue that hit the news every quarter. But there was one thing most people didn't know: who actually ran it. The founder, Gerald Harlow, was 71 years old and quietly handing everything to his son. Not in a press release, not at a gala, quietly, the way Gerald did everything. His son was Jace Harlow. Jace had spent 4 years abroad, business school in London, management theory in Singapore, leadership seminars that cost more than most people's cars. He came home different from what his father expected. No designer suits. No watch that cost more than a semester of college. No interest in being recognized when he walked into a room. His one rule: a man's character shows when nobody's watching. The night he got home, the family sat at dinner. Gerald set down his fork and said, "School's done. Company needs you. And your mother thinks it's time to talk about marriage." Jace's mother, Diane, smiled. "There are families reaching out. Good families." Jace was quiet for a second. Then he said, "I don't want someone from a good family. I want someone who treats people right when there's no reason to." Gerald looked at him. "That's harder to find than you think." "Then I'll look." The next morning, Jace sat alone in his old bedroom, thinking. He called his father in. "If I walk into that building as the owner," he said, "everyone performs. Nobody's real. I won't learn anything." Gerald said, So I'm going in as a nobody, bottom of the payroll. I want to see what the company actually looks like from down there." The room was quiet for a moment. Diane laughed. "You're serious. Dead serious." Gerald studied his son for a long time. Then he said, "Fine. Nobody finds out." 3 days later, Harlow Global posted entry-level openings. Maintenance staff, front desk support, building runners. Outside the main entrance, a line formed early. One guy in line didn't fit. Too calm, eyes too steady. He wore a plain gray hoodie, dark jeans, beat-up sneakers, small backpack, light stubble. That was Jace Harlow. Nobody in that line knew they were standing next to the man who signed the lease on the building. Before the interviews even started, a man drifted over to Jace. Quiet, casual. "You want in?" the man said. Jace looked at him. "Yeah. Forms don't do anything. You need to get your name to the right person." He paused. "Costs $1,200. Jace understood immediately. He paid it, not to get the job, to understand how broken the door already was. 2 hours later, his name appeared on the hired list. He didn't smile. He wrote something down in a small notebook he kept in his back pocket. Day 1. Already corrupted at the entrance. He had no idea yet that somewhere on the 14th floor, there was a woman who was about to make him question everything he thought he was looking for. The 14th floor operated on fear. Jace figured that out within 40 minutes of his first day. People moved fast, but not from energy. From anxiety. Mistakes weren't corrected, they were punished, loudly, in front of an audience. The manager of the floor was a guy named Brixton Cole. Tailored jacket, expensive shoes, voice that filled every room before he entered it. Jace watched Brixton stop in the middle of the floor and hold up a report. "Who built this?" Brixton said. Nobody answered. "I said, who built this?" A younger guy slowly raised his hand. Brixton dropped the report on the desk like it was contaminated. "You collect a real salary and this is what you give me? Did you actually go to school or did you just buy the degree?" The guy sat there, chin down, not moving. Nobody helped him. Jace stood near the copier and watched the whole thing. He wrote 3 words in his notebook. "Fear isn't performance." Then a chair scraped. He looked up. A woman across the room had stood. Not loudly, not dramatically. She just stood, walked to the guy's desk, looked at the report and said quietly, "The framework is right. The header formatting needs fixing. I can show you." She sat on the edge of his desk and started talking him through it. Brixton looked at her, opened his mouth, closed it. He walked back into his office. Jace didn't move for several seconds. He looked at this woman. She was maybe 26. Plain dark blazer. Hair pulled back. Desk so clean it looked like she reset it every morning. She wasn't performing kindness. She just did it and moved on. He heard someone nearby say her name. Remi Nakashima. The days stacked up. Jace carried files. Refilled water stations. Signed for deliveries. Did every low-visibility task the building required. He watched everything. A supervisor taking cash from new hires. A senior analyst with his name on 2 reports he hadn't written. A team lead who always looked busy at 8:50 and 4:55 and never in between. He watched Remi too. Not the way he watched the others. She brought coffee to a 60-year-old man in accounting because she knew his knees hurt and the break room was on the wrong end of the floor. She stayed late on a Thursday to help a new hire understand a process that wasn't even in her department. One afternoon, Jace was filling a water dispenser near her desk when she looked up. "You're new," she said. "Yeah. First week's the worst. Gets quieter." She handed him a cup of water, like he was a person, not a role. He stood there a second. "Why do you help everyone?" he asked. She looked slightly confused by the question. "Because it's faster than watching someone struggle." She went back to her screen. He walked away. But he stopped in the hallway and wrote in his notebook. She didn't even think about it. It wasn't a decision for her. That night his mother asked, "Anyone interesting?" Jace said, "Maybe." She smiled. He didn't explain. 2 weeks in, Jace decided to test the floor. Not cruelty. A controlled accident. He brought Brixton's afternoon coffee. Something runners did twice a day, and let the cup tilt just enough. It hit the edge of the desk. Spread across the surface. Reached Brixton's jacket sleeve. The whole 14th floor went silent. Brixton stood up slowly. Then he turned on Jace. "Are you serious right now?" His voice was already climbing. "Do you know what this jacket costs? More than you make in a month." He pointed at the door. "Who even approved hiring you? What are you even good for?" A few people looked away. Nobody moved. Jace didn't speak. Brixton got louder. "People like you? I don't understand why we keep bringing in people like you. You can't handle a cup of coffee. What exactly is the plan here? People like you." The floor heard it. Still nobody moved. Then a chair moved. Remi stood up. She walked to the front of the room. Steady. Calm. "Brixton." Her voice wasn't angry, just firm. He turned. "Accidents happen," she said. "That's all it was. Stay out of it. Talking to someone like that in front of the whole floor isn't okay. It doesn't matter what spilled." The room held its breath. Brixton stared at her. Then he looked back at Jace. "You're done. Clean out whatever you brought in. You're terminated." Jace looked at him. "Okay," he said. He set his access card on the desk. Picked up his backpack. Looked once at Remi. She was watching him leave. Her expression said she didn't understand why he was so calm. He walked out. She didn't follow. But she stood at the window on the far side of the floor and watched him cross the parking lot below. Slow steps. Head up. She'd never seen someone fired walk that way. Jace was gone for 6 days. Then he was back. Not inside the building. Outside it. Harlow Global used contracted transport for off-site pickups, courier runs, supply drops, external meetings. A new driver appeared on the roster. Plain white shirt. Dark cap. Quiet. Nobody recognized him. Jace spent 4 days driving Harlow employees back and forth. They talked freely in the back. They always did. Drivers were invisible. He heard about Brixton's real track record. 3 complaints filed in 18 months. All buried. He heard about a VP who got a contract renewed after a dinner. He heard about Remi, that she'd been passed over for a promotion twice, that her evaluations were excellent, that nobody could explain why she kept getting skipped. He wrote everything down. On the 5th day, Remi needed a pickup. Client documents. Off-site notary. She got in the back and then stopped. She leaned forward. "Wait." He looked back. You drove for the company before, she said. You're the guy from the 14th floor. Yeah. You're a driver now? Needed work. This opened up. She sat back slowly. They drove in silence for almost a minute. Then she said, I'm sorry about what happened. Not your fault. I should have said more. He glanced in the mirror. You said enough. Another silence. You didn't fight it, she said. Most people would have argued, begged. Something. Wasn't worth it. Why not? He paused just a second too long. I knew it wasn't permanent, he said. She looked at the side of his face. Something in that answer didn't fit. But she didn't push it. He dropped her at the notary. She looked back at him once through the window before going inside. 7 days later, every Harlow Global employee received the same internal message. Mandatory all-staff meeting. Main auditorium. Thursday, 10 a.m. Announcement from executive leadership. Brixton read it and immediately told 2 people he expected a title change. He'd been angling for regional director for 8 months. Today felt like the day. He wore his best jacket. Got there early. Sat in the 3rd row. Remy sat near the back. She didn't know what this was about. She'd stopped trying to guess what leadership would do. The auditorium filled. The energy was different, less routine meeting, more something is actually happening. An executive Remy recognized from the top floor took the mic. Before we get to the announcement, we want to acknowledge someone who has spent the past several weeks embedded in this organization. Not as leadership, but as a ground-level employee. Someone who was here to understand what this company actually looks like from inside. The room shifted. People looked around. Who is this? Then a door at the side of the stage opened. A man walked out. Plain clothes. Calm face. Same steady eyes. Remy's breath stopped. She whispered it before she even finished recognizing him. That's the driver. Brixton didn't understand at first. He squinted. Then the executive said, Please welcome the chairman and acting CEO of Harlow Global, Mr. Jace Harlow. The room exploded. People stood. Applause rolled from the back to the front. Brixton didn't stand. He sat completely still. His face went the color of old paper. His hands, gripping his armrests, began to shake. He was replaying it, people like you, more than you make in a month, get out. And the man he'd said it to was now standing at a podium that bore his family name. Remy was standing, but not clapping. She was just watching him. Jace let the room settle. Then he spoke. I came into this company as a nobody on purpose. I carried files. I made coffee runs. I got fired. He paused. And I drove a few of you to your appointments. Light laughter. Then quiet again. I wanted to know if people in this building were treated differently based on their title. Based on what they looked like. Based on what they could offer whoever was in charge. He looked out at the faces. They were. No applause. Just silence that meant everyone was listening. I paid a bribe to get hired on day 1. I watched a manager humiliate employees publicly for sport. I saw promotions go to the wrong people for the wrong reasons. I have documentation on all of it. The screen behind him lit up. Reports. Dates. Names. Brixton's name appeared 3 times. Some of you are going to be having different conversations with HR starting this afternoon. He looked at Brixton directly. Brixton looked at his shoes. The company my father built doesn't run on fear. It doesn't run on who brings the best gift to the right dinner. It runs on people doing their jobs with integrity. He paused. We're going back to that. Starting today. Then he looked toward the back of the room. Toward Remy. But I also found something I wasn't expecting to find. The room followed his gaze. Remy went still. There was one person on the 14th floor who treated a runner, a driver, and a nobody the exact same way she treated everyone else. Not because she was being watched. Because that's just who she is. He didn't say her name. He didn't need to. He just looked at her for one quiet second. Then he stepped back from the mic. Brixton was escorted from the building the next morning. He didn't argue. He looked smaller than anyone had ever seen him. The bribe coordinator was terminated that afternoon. Remy was offered the promotion that had been withheld from her, twice without explanation. She sat in front of Jace's desk the day after the meeting. I don't want it as a gesture, she said. It's not, he said. Your evaluations have been the strongest on the floor for 2 years. You just kept getting skipped. Why? Because Brixton didn't like that he couldn't intimidate you. She sat with that. Jace leaned forward. There's something else I want to ask you. She waited. Not as your employer, he said. As a person. She didn't respond. Just watched him. When I was a runner and you handed me water, did you know who I was? No. When you stood up to Brixton to defend me, did you know? No. He nodded slowly. That's why I'm asking this. A pause. Would you want to get dinner sometime? Not here. Not work. Just dinner. Remy looked at him for a long moment. I'd have to tell my mom, she said. He almost laughed. What? She's going to ask. She always asks. And she'll want to meet you before I decide anything serious. He stared at her. Then he smiled. The first completely unguarded smile she'd seen from him. That's the most honest thing anyone said to me in months, he said. Dinner happened 3 weeks later. Then Jace met her mother. Then Jace's parents met her mother. The first time Diane Harlow sat in Remy's mother's kitchen. Small apartment, mismatched chairs, good food. She reached across the table and said, You raise someone who doesn't perform kindness. That's rare. Remy's mother said, I just raised her to see people, not positions. Gerald Harlow looked at his son across the table and didn't say anything. He didn't have to. The wedding was small. 40 people. A rented venue that didn't require a deposit most people couldn't afford. No press. No live stream. No coverage in any business publication. A reporter caught Jace outside afterward. Why nothing bigger? You could have had anything. Jace looked at Remy. She treated a nobody with respect, he said. You don't celebrate that with a spectacle. 6 months later, Jace implemented 3 new policies at Harlow Global. No anonymous payments in the hiring process. Formal reporting for any promotion override. Mandatory floor-level reviews where junior staff evaluated management, anonymously with teeth. The day the policies went live, he and Remy were reviewing the rollout documents together in his office. She looked up. Do you think it'll actually change anything? He thought about it honestly. Some of it will. Some people will just get better at hiding it. So why bother? Because the ones who were already doing right, they deserve to work somewhere that protects them. Remy looked at him for a second. That's what you were really looking for, she said. Wasn't it? Not the corruption. Not the proof. He set down his pen. I spent 4 years learning how to run a company, he said. Nobody taught me how to find someone worth running it with. The room was quiet. Remy looked back at her screen. But she was smiling. What you carry into a room isn't your title. It isn't your salary. It's whether the person with nothing to gain from being kind to you still is. That's the only thing that doesn't lie.